We're going to be joined shortly. In fact, I think I've just seen him join the call just now by my colleague, Gary Moulton. I'm going to introduce Gary again in just a second or two, but Gary is the kind of expert in this field, and we've worked together with him, and he has produced over quite a long period of time some excellent resources which allow for the teaching using simulation and worksheet learning, distance-led learning on hydraulics and this type of topical area. So the products that or the kind of simulation software environment that we have to offer to you is new and it's unique. It goes by the name of Engineering Adventures. I'm going to hand over to Gary in a moment's time, who will guide you through. As I said just a few moments ago, we've got people on the call here from the US. We've had quite a lot of interest from the US market. I know that specific industries such as heavy goods, vehicle industries, agriculture industries, and so on are specifically quite interested in this particular offering from Matrix and what it can do. And we've had quite a lot of interest from UK colleges, UK colleges being those studying BTEC, for example. And so we'll hopefully touch on how the packages can be utilized for that type of delivery. And then we've also got others on the call from further afield, South America, Middle East, Sri Lanka, as I said, and India as well. So hopefully, well, in fact, I also see colleagues from Africa on the line. So hopefully Gary will be able to explain a lot more about this. If there is interest from you in this new offering from us, don't hesitate to get in touch. Matrix are the only people who are able to offer this particular product to the education market. And so you need to either get in touch with ourselves direct, and you all have my contact details, or you can get in touch with one of our international agents, of which we have 60 covering the globe. But yeah, for any other detailed questions or information, don't hesitate to contact us. You will find that on the, if you just give me a moment, I'll just share this with you briefly. On the Matrix website, which hopefully you can see now, we have a section all about our automation and pneumatics hardware environment called Automatics. And here you'll find a tab for training, where there's some basic information about the hydraulics training that we have on offer, the lesson plans. There's a link there to a separate website where you gain access to when you purchase these licenses, information about the virtual test rigs and so on. So there is some information already on the Matrix site. For more information, this webinar will hopefully give you that, and it will also take you through the Engineering Adventures site so that you can find out more there. So I'm going to hand over now to my colleague, Gary Moulton, and I will, Gary, make you the host. So if you just give me a moment, make host. And okay, you should be able to unmute your microphone now, Gary. Yep.
Yep, that's muted. Hopefully people can hear me. I'm not sure if anyone can see me yet. I can't see myself, so.
I can't see you at the moment. You may, I don't know if you have this.
Yeah,
there we go. We can see you now. Okay, brilliant, Gary. I will hand over to yourself, but I'm here throughout, and I can address any questions. If anyone does have questions, don't hesitate to pop them into the chat box. We can address them throughout, or we can address them towards the end.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Liam. Thank you for the introduction. I'll just do videos. I'll just introduce myself actually quickly. I mean, I've worked in the hydraulics industry for over 30 years, and also been doing software, educational game software for about 20 years now. So there's a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge has gone into what I'm going to show you today. So it's really been a hobby for many years, but now it's proving to be quite useful for our times. I'll just see if I can share my screen. Is that working? Can you see? Well done. Okay, that's good. So I'll give you a walk through the website and the resources today. The main point, just to show you how easily you can run a lesson. I mean, the key thing is that you can run hydraulics lessons at a high level to your students without too much extra work and preparation. So we'll show you how to do that. But also the main feature of the site is that we build virtual hydraulic test rigs. So with training, it's a lot of knowledge-based learning. You can learn from books and lectures, but actually with engineering, you need experience to operate things. So what we can do here is build simulations of circuits. We can put in the valves. So we've got a lot of virtual test rigs where they're actually simulation-based rather than animation-based. You can change the features and operate the equipment. So it's nice and easy to do within a lesson. You can give the students little exercises to do. So we'll show you essentially, hopefully, work through our lesson plans. We've got some lesson plans that take you through what you would do in a lesson and what you should be giving your students. So it's say taking the hard work out and showing you some of the simulations. So one of the, we'll just go through. I'd say that this actually is for classrooms as well as for the COVID and working at home remotely now. I think I'm the only person who's been writing classroom lesson plans during lockdown. But let's start with a website. The big problem with websites is that they're difficult to find information. So I'll just give you a quick sign of all the simulations and all the content we've got. So these are all the simulations. We've got calculators, lots of different calculators that you can use for checking if you're working in hydraulics or checking your calculations while you're learning. Call it tips, but these are tutorials. So there's quite a few little interactive tutorials the students can do. Videos. There's an awful lot of videos now. And some worksheets. So these are the guides for doing things. So one of the real benefits of teachers, I mean, teachers are very good at sorting through and giving the students what they require. Websites, unfortunately, the more I put in, the more difficult it becomes to use. So it is a problem with websites. Hopefully I will show you how to get around that today, but it is that one of the things that teachers do well is they know how to feed things to their students. And even now our lesson plans are hopefully good, but they're in Word, so you can adopt them for your students to show them how they do it. Now there's a couple of things I'll just quickly show you. This makes it really easy. It's a table that shows you who your classes might be, because it's not just students. There are we do get a lot of industrial users as well, companies. So we've got a skill classification across the top, and that essentially is for rookies, people who purchase, so if you're training someone who purchases, operators, so I like the CTOP. If you've got chance and you're teaching hydraulics, read the CTOP guidelines because they're very good. They publish all their courses. And they've got 3 grades, 1, 2, and 3. Grade 1 is, and this is whether you're safe to work, so really training people to work in the hydraulics industry. Level 1 is to operate and be able to read the gauges. Level 2 is to be able to adjust settings. So you're saying someone is safe to go and adjust equipment and set it up, make simple adjustments. Level 3 is someone who's competent to commission equipment or maintain equipment. So that's a higher level again. And they specify these quite clearly and what you need to do to achieve those levels. But essentially, if you're going to adjust equipment, you do need to know the construction of it. So you need to know how the valves work, where the springs are. You need to know a little bit more higher level. And obviously when you're commissioning, you need to know the implications of what you're doing and how that affects other components. So they've got some quite good courses, and we try to follow that procedure as well. We've got a little bit more because some people just need to know what hydraulics is. And if you come onto the website, there's a demo lesson plan here that you can follow to see what see the resources. So all the resources in this demo are free for you to look at for later, and we'll sort of, well, we haven't got time to take you through the course, but we have just released one course which for our American colleagues is the one for the ag industry on hydrostatic transmissions and things. So let me
Gary, can I just ask briefly, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, just going back onto that page, CTOP, can you just, for those who aren't familiar with CTOP, can you just clarify who that is?
Yeah, CTOP is the European, I don't know the CTOP, I've always just noticed it. They make of your industrial valves the standard template. They're all called CTOP valves because that's the standard template, and it's a European standards agency that run a lot of training, and they're just a big organization within the hydraulics industry. So yeah, I should really know what it stands for, shouldn't I?
It's an acronym then, I guess, yeah?
It is, yeah. But
right.
Everyone, industrial valves, you just call them CTOP interfaces because that's the nature of the CTOP 3, 6 is the size of the valve.
I believe it's a French acronym.
Probably.
So I wouldn't want to try and say it or pronounce it, but okay, that's fine. I just wanted clarity there for anyone who's unfamiliar. But that's
search CTOP and their training standards, and they've got a list of their training brochure, which is what we are trying to work to eventually. I will just show you another screen here. This is another screen that's got all the courses in, and it's just trying to make it easy to find the content. So we've got our self-study plans and our tutorials, our web content, our videos, and the simulations. But on the right-hand side here, you should see the BTEC course. So I've been through the BTEC syllabus, and there's codes within the syllabus. So I've tried to put those codes in here and what they relate to. So you can see that there's more information on the site than there is in the BTEC requirements. But so we won't specifically go through the BTEC requirements today, but they are all covered within the course. So what I will do now is come back to this screen. We'll just take you through an example of the content on the site and how you can use it. So if we were, I'll just pick this one. This again is just all the different lessons. So we've got some structure in the lessons with different coding, and it's split into groups, which are quite common within most courses. So we have, again, just knowledge-based information. There's descriptions and text on everything, which some of the more able students may get into. This section is just about the principles of hydraulics. And to be quite honest, the best lesson I ever had was from the director at Sterling Hydraulics, and he just said, oh, there's nothing to hydraulics. All it is a spring against a piston. So you put pressure on a piston or a spool, you've got a bit of leakage, and you've got an orifice, and the orifice opens. And that pretty much summarizes all of hydraulics. It's really simple. You know, as long as you know that pistons are moving, so either cylinders or spools, and that's opening orifices. And as you get down through here, you've got a little chamber, so you put an orifice in to restrict the flow out, and you've got a time control, and you put a seal on, you've got friction and hysteresis. And to be honest, hydraulics is that easy. Everything else comes from that. And so that's a lesson well worth giving. We've got a video that you can watch and look at, and it tells you essentially what I've just said. But again, the key thing is the simulation. So a lot of them now have sound. I'll talk you through it. But again, if you just, let's get to this. We can now demonstrate the theories that we've just discussed. So you can actually move the valve, increase the pressure on the top of the spool against the spring, so that moves the valve, and then we can change the load. So if we change the pressure on the pump, we can see how that affects the pressure drops. So with all these little simulations, we're getting graphs and diagrams for the circuit and things. So it's just making a nice exercise, and you want to break your lessons down into little exercises, the points you're trying to get across. And within, so each lesson we do, each subject has got the text-based information. It's then got the videos, and it's got a little simulation. And below the simulations, we give instructions for what you can do within the lessons, what you can ask the students to do. And there are questions, run a little experiment, ask a question and get an answer, which we do give away. So there's a structure to each lesson that you can run through. And again, it should really, what we want to do is to end up with the students running little tests and exercises themselves and getting their own results. So that is the basic structure. We'll just look at something a bit more advanced, because I know BTEC is very maintenance based, and a lot of the US people now are looking for maintenance based in the agricultural industry. So this is a nice little simulation we've got. So essentially it starts with a game, because we're talking to students rather than people. I guess the BTEC are not specifically going to work in the hydraulics industry. So part of the reason for, certainly in the States, is to engage children in hydraulics and realize how much fun it is. And hydraulics is the best because you get to drive the biggest machines, the most powerful robots. So essentially, initially, we've got a little game for them to see what happens. They've got cab, slew, and the arm extend, and moving the tracks. It's just a bit of fun to get them interested at the lower levels of school. Then we dig a little deeper. So now we've got the 3 controls again. We've got the track control, we've got the slew control, and we've got the arm extend control. And when we move these, we can see the drive is by hydrostatic transmission. So clearly there's text to go through this, and it's a bit too complicated just to run through in a little webinar like this. But what we can do is we can follow the signal through. So we've got our electrical signals that are coming here. We can see how the valves move within the system, and we can see how that changes our pump settings. And that goes through and changes our motors, drives, and our hydrostatics. So we've got another system here, which is a load sensing system. Again, it's a bit too complicated to run through very quickly, but it shows us what's happening. And we get lots of little exercises. So now we've got, it's showing us where the contamination entry points are. Contamination is a theme that comes up all the time in hydraulics because it is the biggest killer. And then you get some exercises for the students to find the points where the contamination is generated. So we give examples of things, and then we ask them to run things, and we give a score when they've done it. So there are a number of these exercises as we go through to identify different components within the system. What are we doing for time? Our next stage then is to go onto the circuit for the hydrostatic system. And it's in its basic mode, it gives a mouse over that just shows you the components and what they do. Then we have a little exercise to identify the pressure control valves in this case. So that is a pressure control valve, we get a point. That's not a pressure control valve. So again, it's just a little exercise because we need, if you reinforce, make the students do things, then it makes them understand a little better. We've got identifying flow control valves and a few things. There are build the circuit, which is, again, just reinforces that you understand what the components are, which you should have learned if you had a bit more than 5 minutes. And then we've got a little maintenance exercise here as well, where you're shown what it is initially, but if you've got to do some maintenance on a vehicle, one of the things you would do is look at the filter clogging indicators For short-term maintenance, you wouldn't check your relief valve settings, but it's just another little exercise to encourage or teach people what they should be doing during maintenance. It's difficult this, I'm not getting feedback. I'm sorry if I'm rushing. I really am rushing through. There's a lot to take in here, but I'm trying to give you an idea of the type of content that's here without actually giving you any chance to really understand it or appreciate it. But here we've got some issues. So there's a fault with this circuit. We've built in a fault, and you can go around having a look and see what the problem is. And when you find out what the problem is, it's the filter was clogged. I know that. So you click on the component that's right. If you click on the wrong component, it says no. But we've got a number of exercises here where you can actually, students can diagnose things. Now, once you've completed a number of exercises, or probably you just give the students one exercise, we've got built in now, we're building in, it's not in all the systems, an LRS posting. So those of you that are familiar with learning management systems, this is the new form of results post out from apps. It works really nicely. So what we do is we post our results out, and then we go to our learning management system, which is hidden below my screen. So I'm going to have to pull that down to see it. So that result has just come through at 2:35. Yes, it has. So I completed on it, just the one I tested before, and it gives me the time it took me, various bits of information about the skill level I achieved, the time it took, the score I got. So if you are teaching lots of students, I'm sure, hopefully you're familiar with these learning management systems and learning results systems. It's really nice. So you can give your students a series of tests to do and experiments, and then check their results automatically in your learning management system. So that's quite a nice thing to do. Racing
Gary, can I just there's one or two questions come through, some of them to myself privately. Okay. As you're talking, and I'll address some of them probably towards the end, but some of them might be better being addressed now. One question was whether measurements can be changed to imperial values, for example, from bar to KPI or PSI. Is that at all possible?
Yes. Yeah, I know that's a common question, and we do offer. It depends on the different apps. Most of them have a little button. This one doesn't, because it doesn't have many figures in it. I think they're I'm not sure where it is on this one, but yeah, a lot of the apps have a little imperial to metric units swap over, and if it's not built in here, it will be. I think there's no units on this, so it didn't need them, but this was for a US client, so it will be imperial based. By default, they come up as metric, because having been old enough to have worked in imperial units, metric is so much better. So my default is metric, but it will do imperial. Okay,
that's great. Sorry, I'll probably, the other couple of questions I've had, oh, in fact, there's one more that's just come in. We'll have a look at this now. Can this be integrated for learners using servo electronic controllers and stepper motors at all?
Yes, there's a little bit, there's some on proportional and servo. It doesn't go too highly into detail on that at the moment with exercises, but that's one area that I do need to improve. Stepper motors we don't cover because they're electrical, so we don't actually cover those at the moment. And the next question probably is about the electrical side of things, because it's still quite light on electrical information, but CTOP are publishing their training requirements for electrical and controls. They should have done it by now, but it's due out at any time. And I think I'm going to follow that, because it's just, there are so many different types. I really don't know where to start. So I'm going to see what they say and follow their guidance, because I quite like what they do. So that will come in. But if there are areas that people need, then we do tend to add it. I do like to add things. So
yeah. Thanks, Gary. That's fine.
The next section we'll show is on circuit design, because I know in BTEC it's quite focused towards drawing circuits and designing circuits. Personally, I think I've designed very few circuits. No one really designs circuits anymore, because from my way of thinking, it's like a bit like chess, in that a grandmaster in chess will have 5 moves that he can make, and he'll know that in 5 moves time, each move will give him a different outcome, attacking or defensive. So he's thinking 5 moves ahead, and he can't make up new moves. In hydraulics, it's pretty much the same, that everything's already been done. So you need to know the different options you can use, and you use a circuit that in 5 years' time is going to be easier to maintain or more reliable or whatever the requirements are. But you select the circuits based on what's going to happen down the line. And simulation, really, it's for most things, it can't make those decisions. And all the circuits have already been designed 100 times. Certainly, I never saw. I worked for Rexroth and Parker and Sarah Sundstrand, and there's always experts in every field. You don't get a chance to design anything because someone's done it before. You just go and look up and talk to the people that have done it before, to make sure you fully understand all the nuances. So we've got a series of pages here where we cover different circuits. This is for power supplies, so you can see there are lots of different ways you can run the supply systems, with load sensing, with accumulators and fixed displacement pumps. And I know one of the key things that we'll need to look at is our circuit simulation program, which actually it's too complicated to put imperial units into this one. And this is the only one where it's just too complicated. I'm afraid it has to be metric units. So this is a circuit builder. You can build your own circuits, but essentially it's you can select them from the drop-down list and operate the system. So if we've got an open center system and you try to operate your valves, you can't operate both valves unless the other valve is in the right position. So you can use it to understand the different circuit logics. It's very simple. This is not, I know a lot of people have got Fluid Sim and the other circuit simulation programs. I love circuit simulation, but it's really, in my way of thinking, it's really inappropriate for very advanced designers. I only ever use it on proportional and servo systems when you consider fluid as compressible and you're really looking at the performance of valves and how accurately you can control something. This is designed to be very simple. You can change things. You can change the masses on the cylinders and it will affect the circuit and how it works. You can change the frictions. You can change the valve types, the centers of the valves, open center or 8-meter tank. So you can change things very easily. And again, it's a children's game, so it's easy to use. You can design and build your own circuits and save them. There's a downloadable version which does that. But essentially it's designed to switch back to that. Essentially it's designed just for beginners and people who are learning about hydraulics, when the better simulation programs are probably not required. You can spend hours setting those things up and making mistakes in them. And so much as I love them, you don't really need them when you're training to this level. It's only when you really train for design engineers and then the very top guys that you would use them. Whereas this is a nice, simple way of doing things. Certainly not as good as Fluid Sim, but far more appropriate, I think, for training at this sort of level. And there's still, there's a lot of things you can do in it. We can build in diagnostics. So clearly there's something wrong in this system. I'm not sure what it is, but probably there's too much pressure and it's causing negative pressures. So you probably have to change your loads to get the system to work correctly. But again, it's nice to do within our lesson plans. We give exercises to do. So if you've been studying loads on a cylinder or something, then you would actually give them a little exercise and they would need to make the modifications to the circuit, which might only be a center condition or something like that when the valve selection. But it's a nice way of doing it, and there aren't so many things that they can do wrong that you get in a larger simulation program. So that's really where that is.
Gary, just a quick one. I want to have time for some questions, if there are any further, which I think one or two have come to me, and time for me to just talk to people about how the licensing structure is going to work, for example. So do you think maybe 5 more minutes or so to go through a few more things, or?
That's exactly the only other thing I was going to say. Well, was that there are mobile versions, phone app versions of a lot of the software, because I know a lot of people now use Chromebooks in the classroom or need to take it home or whatever. So all those things were going to be available. We do, for teachers, there will be a special page where only teachers can access the lesson plans and get unlock codes for some of this software as well, and get some of the downloads, things that aren't readily available to everyone else. So that basically was the point there. And yeah, I think I've covered quite a lot, and there's obviously a lot more there, but certainly if there are questions, might be a better way to do it, to look at things.
Okay, thank you. There was something I was going to ask you to just kind of, I guess, build on a little. You mentioned vaguely earlier on, and I think I mentioned it, and I do know that we have a number of people from various countries, UK, US, who are involved in agriculture and agri-tech, so to speak. Did you mention that you had some sort of relationship with a US group of colleges, and can you just give us a little bit of background possibly on that?
Yeah, the States, there is money being put in to encourage people to go into the agricultural industry, to make hydraulics more interesting. So essentially this is why this simulation has been done. So it makes it interesting for the younger students. They can actually drive and see what an excavator does. I know it's not particularly interesting, but then starts their training to try and encourage them to come into the industry and to make sure that they're fully trained when they're in it. So they are doing some work over there on that. This has been developed as part of that, and that first course is mobile based. For the BTEC guys, reading the standard, it looks as though the person that wrote it is an aerospace person, and there's really not that much aerospace hydraulics unless you're in Bristol or Derby. Mobile is the biggest industry. It funds a lot of the industrial products as well because it is so large. So I think probably the majority of people will be working in the mobile industry on maintenance and such like. Industrial side of things, it depends obviously where your colleges are based, because there's a lot of industry in certain areas, a lot of industrial hydraulics engineers required, but majority wise, value wise and equipment wise, the mobile industry is one of the biggest and probably most complex as well. They do things in lots of different ways, so or most exciting and interesting.
Good. Okay, great. Okay, there was a question that came through, which was, I think I'll probably be able to answer this best. Whether this is web-based, which obviously we can see it is. You gain access through a web login, and that is essentially what users will purchase from Matrix. And in terms of assigning individual student logons, that is something that can be done as well. So I just want to take you through how the licensing, kind of works. So Gary, feel free to chip in if you want at any point whilst I'm explaining how this works, okay? But essentially, and all of our agents will have information on the pricing and licensing by tomorrow, so they'll receive all of that, and so you can get in touch with your local agent for that type of information. Essentially, we will have a single user access license, and this will just be available to individuals, individual students, for example, and through this, we will supply one access code and one password which will be against your email address. Through this, no access will be given to lesson plans, which are only to be accessed from teachers, and no access will be given to mobile phone apps. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Go on, were you going to say something?
Well, within teachers can get access to the mobile phone key. So if the teachers want to give their students access via mobile phones, which some do, then there will be a way of doing that. Again, it's trying to make it as simple as possible to get all the accesses and codings correct, but there are lots of things in there. So yeah, we'll do our best.
Then for academia, there are two different license options. The first one is for a 10-user access, okay? And through this, what we will supply you with is a list of codes. So there will be one access code and password, which is for the teacher, and then there will be an access code and password for the students, okay? And these will be individual to each student, Gary, is that right?
There will probably be one login. When there's lots of
one
students,
login, and then each student will have.
Teachers and the students will have a different login, which will be different for each college or user. So again, trying to make it as simple as possible, but obviously the checking then in the background just to make sure things are working.
And then finally, there will be a site license access version of the software as well, or the resources. So there'll be a single user, a 10-user, and a site license, which will be unrestricted in terms of its capabilities for access. Everything will be provided through email, and there'll be no physical submission of products, for example. The licenses will run for a 12-month period, okay? Or they will run for an academic year, okay? And every September, we will ask people to reinvest in their licenses for the next academic year. That's right, isn't it, Gary?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so we will have information with all of our agents in the coming day or so, and information it can be sought from Matrix at any point right now. I'm just looking through my notes to see if there's anything else that I think I need to mention or address at this stage.
There was only one point I was going to mention actually, which fits in. I mean, the link with Matrix is very good for us because we don't cover the pneumatics, but also when you're teaching hydraulics and pneumatics, the Matrix has some very nice little testers. I know there are the Festo rigs and the rigs for teaching hydraulics, but it gets quite dangerous teaching hydraulics and you don't learn so much from doing it. So it's nice if you're building physical circuits and putting things together and controlling them with electronics. It works nicely to do that in pneumatics because you're not going to kill anyone. Hydraulics is done more nicely within the simulations and the virtual test rigs that we use. And perhaps then if you're doing maintenance and higher level maintenance, you need something to maintain a piece of equipment but there's generally some equipment around that you can actually maintain or hire and then maintain to do that. So it works quite nicely the way we pull things together with the pneumatics for the physical testing and the hydraulics on virtual test rigs.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I've had a couple of other questions that have come in. Frank Portuondo is based in the US and requires pricing for the site license version. And of course, we will ensure that the local US agent provides that to you. I'm assuming I already have your contact details because, of course, you're here, so you're registered. And the other question is from Vor Williams, which is regarding the costs. And that is something that you can get the information from your local agent. Again, for yourself, I am sure that you already have registered and given me your details, so I will ensure that those costs are sent to you. At any time, for those who are watching a recording of this, you can contact Matrix and we will either put you in touch with our agent in your particular territory, or we will be able to provide the costing information and things ourselves. Okay. Okay. Gary, is there anything else? I think from my perspective, I've covered everything I wanted to have covered in this short webinar. Is there anything else you wanted to?
No, I mean, it's just that we've got that demo available. If people want to see more, they can go and try it and find that demo, find the demo page, and all those routine simulations are free and open for them to try.
Absolutely. Great. Does anybody else have any further questions at all at this stage? I know you might want to share the recording with colleagues. You may want to ask anything now. We're going to be around for the next 5 minutes or so. Okay, Shane has asked about the license being, does it allow students to log in from anywhere, or is it networked? It allows logins from anywhere. That's right, isn't it, Gary?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so Shane, that the system allows logins from anywhere. Vo Williams has asked whether there are updates, whether the updates to the system, so when you update, these are automatically integrated into Access, and I believe they are automatic updates.
Yes, yeah.
Yep, so that's correct. The URL to the website, I will ensure that I will send you all the recording, all of you the recording of this this afternoon, today, and I will ensure that within that you are sent the links to the site where you can go and find out more, test things out, and so on. Okay. Okay. I think we're more or less finished. I don't see any other questions coming through. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. You'll have my you'll have my contact details if you have any more questions. But yeah, just reach out if you have anything else to ask. And thanks very much, Gary, for delivering that for us.
No, thanks for organising it.
No problem. And thanks to all of you that were able to attend. Again, I apologise for the short delay and technical issues at the beginning, but that's live webinars for you, I guess. Okay, thanks very much. Speak soon.
Thank you.
For anyone else who's on actually as well, whilst I'm here, I will just mention that next week on Tuesday, this is taking place at 3 p.m. UK time. I will just double check that, but I believe that's correct. We are running a webinar to present Matrix's new offerings for automotive electrics training. This is from our Locktronics range. We have 6 new kits which are going to be added to our existing Locktronics range. So if anyone is interested in attending that particular webinar, as I say, that's on Tuesday of next week, drop me an email and I will ensure that I send you the links. In fact, I'll probably include the link on the recording for this one. Okay, I'm going to close this now. I think we're all done. Thanks very much, everyone. I'll send the recording shortly.
Cheers, Liam.